Hello, my name is Jason Lupton, and this is my Week 5 assignment for FTE 217. Today's date is November 30th, 2025. All right, to start, the first thing we need to do is ensure that our workspace is clear of any live ammunition. I have none in this area at this time. Next thing we need to do is check to make sure that the firearm is safe and clear. So first thing we're going to do, point the firearm in a safe direction. Make sure it is placed on safe. Drop the magazine if we have any. We do not. Lock our charging handle to the rear. We're going to visually and physically inspect our chamber. Make sure there's no ammunition inside. This weapon is cleared and safe, and we can move on with the assignment. All right, first thing we're going to do is perform a dry functions check. So for this, the only thing we need is the firearm and a magazine and our ears and eyes. What we're going to do first is check to make sure that, again, the weapon does not have any ammunition inside of it. So we're going to go ahead and pull our charging handle. Look, feel. All right, we're good to go. So now the hammer is cocked inside of the trigger well. So what we're going to do is we're going to first see if we can hear or feel any roughness when the action cycles. So as we're charging, or as I pull on charging handle, we're listening to see if we have any grinding or feeling for anything that feels out of place. As you get familiar with the system, you'll notice more and more differences. And we're also looking to make sure that everything is moving properly. So you can see the bolt disengage the way it's supposed to. So first thing we're going to test is our safety selector. So with the charging handle being, or with the action cocked, we're going to place the weapon on safe and listen for any grinding in the trigger, or listening for the sear, for the hammer to fall. We should not hear the loud hammer fall. So we're just going to pull on the trigger. And we can hear the trigger hitting on the selector lever, but we're not hearing the hammer fall. Next, we are going to turn the firearm from safe to fire. And we are going to pull the trigger to the rear, and we should hear a loud thunk from the hammer falling. All right, so now the hammer's fallen. We're going to keep the trigger pulled to the rear and go ahead and charge the firearm again. Let it fall. And now when we release the trigger, we should hear the hammer move from the disconnector to the sear. That works. Place weapon back on fire. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to place our magazine in the firearm. And we are going to ensure that it moves in and out correctly without dragging. We want to make sure we got a good lock. It's not going to come apart. Now we're going to ensure that the magazine falls underneath its own weight. It does. We are going to check our magazine release to listen for any grinding. We're also looking to see if it actually moves the lever inside here, and it moves freely without binding. Let's say that's good to go. We don't have any unnecessary rattling. Everything looks to be in place. Dust cover functions as it should with it closed. Once that is good to go. So as a gunsmith, when you're doing a functions check, you're just listening for anything out of place. For a dry functions check, sorry. We're listening for anything out of place. We're looking to see that the action moves in the manner it's supposed to. We're looking to see that the safety selector is engaging the way it's supposed to. And so for the next thing we're actually going to do, we're going to go ahead and do a drop test. So for this, we're going to use our rubber mallet. And with the firearm on safe, we're going to go ahead and tap in it a few places on both sides. Make sure we don't hear the hammer fall. Okay. And then we can do a drop test of a few inches here. So we're going to go ahead and bring it up and then drop it. And now, all that being done, if we place this on fire and pull the trigger, we should hear the hammer fall. It is on fire. All right, hammer falls. So now we're going to do the same thing, but with the firearm in the fire position instead of the safe position. So again, and then we'll do the drop test. All right, with that being said, I didn't hear the hammer fall, but I have a lot of stuff on here making noises. So now we're going to go ahead and pull the trigger once more. Hammer falls. That tells me that the drop test on this firearm is good. So next we're going to move into the same functions test, but we're going to be using dummy rounds to ensure that we have a good functions check. So this is a functions test with dummy rounds. So we're going to go ahead and load these up in the magazine. We're going to go ahead and place our magazine in the magazine well. Make sure it locks in like it's supposed to. So first thing we're looking for, we can go through the full functions check again. So as we're doing this, we're watching to see what's happening. So we pull our charging handle to the rear, and then we should hear the first round raise into position. Now, as we let the bolt move forwards, we're watching to see that the round is feeding into the chamber properly. So as it goes forward, it's feeding, and now it's in the chamber, so we're going to make sure that the bolt locks. There we go. All right, so now we have a round chambered in the action. We can go ahead and pull the trigger. All right, and then we are going to hold the trigger to the rear, pull the charging handle, and slowly extract and eject the round, hopefully slowly. There we go. All right, so we extracted, ejected. Now we're going to ensure that we're grabbing the next round and it's moving freely into position. There we go. All right, now we're going to let go of our trigger to make sure our disconnector is working fine. Disconnector works just fine. So we're going to do the same thing. We're going to ensure that this one extracts and ejects. We're, like I said, we're looking and listening at the same time to make sure that we don't have any issues. This I'm going to do kind of fast. And then we should have the last round going in. Make sure that we're feeding and chambered correctly. Pulling trigger. Extracted and ejected is fine, and then we want to make sure that the last round hold open is working. All right, it held the bolt backwards, the bolt carrier group backwards, and then magazine ejection. And that is a functions check with dummy ammunition. Now, for a functions check with live ammunition, we would add a few extra points to it. So with the firing of the live ammunition, we're also making sure that the bolt carrier is not moving backwards too quickly because it's overgassed. Indications of that would be checking our ejection pattern. Also, if we are having a bolt bump, or a bolt jump. So basically, as the bolt carrier slams forward, it actually bounces a little bit, and you could see the bolt carrier may stop in the unlocked position. So it would look similar to that right there, or it could try to double feed, or it could have a misfeed to where the cartridge may be placed in there like this. For an undergassed, with you could check your ejection pattern, and it would probably be pinging off of, I think it was pinging off of these and just falling short. But it would also, maybe your bolt carrier group only moves back about that far instead of the full travel, so it wouldn't pick up the next round. So even if it does extract and eject the first round, you may not chamber or feed the next one off the magazine. So those are kind of the two things we're looking for with the ammunition side. So no matter what your function check is, you're looking at the cycle of operations. So feeding, chambering, locking, unlocking, extracting, ejecting, and firing. Is that everything? Yep. When you're doing a live fire functions check, you're doing the same thing, except for now you can actually operate the gas system, which is the only system not operated using our dummies check. So now we will be measuring our barrel length. I have removed my compensator because it's quite long, and I wanted to make sure that I get an accurate measurement. So I've placed a little tape on my cleaning rod here so that we can take our measurement. I've also affixed a brass tip on my cleaning rod. And now we are going to take and push it down the barrel. Now, before I did any of this, I went ahead and ensured that the firearm was cleared. And then the bolt is closed fully. So now from here, we can take our marker, or I'm using this Write Anywhere pencil, and go ahead and mark the very end of the barrel on the tape. So now we can pull the cleaning rod out. and take a measurement with our tape measure, and that gives us a length of 18 3/8 of an inch. So 18 3/8 of an inch. Now, if my compensator was pinned and welded on the barrel, then I could actually take the measurement from the end of my compensator to the bolt face, and that would be a legal measurement. But pin and welding means that after the muzzle device is in place, then what we would do is we would drill through this hole, and then that would actually drill into the threads of our barrel here. And with that drilled, we can take a pin that is the proper diameter for this hole here, and then we would clean this all up, bevel it down, and weld that pin in place, and that keeps our muzzle device installed almost permanently. The minimum legal barrel length is 16 inches. So with our compensator here, if we were to pin and weld this one on, it's roughly 1 3/4 of an inch, almost 2. So legally we could have a 14.5-inch barrel and put this compensator on there, and it would still be legal length. So in this part, we're going to be measuring our rifling of the barrel. So the way we're going to do this is I have my cleaning rod again, and I have placed a flag on it. I've got my jag installed, and then I'm going to go ahead and put a patch on it. We're going to go ahead and push it through. All right, we're in the chamber. Get it started in the rifling. So now we're going to put our flag at about the 12 o'clock position. All right, so now we will go ahead and mark our starting point right here. And then we'll push in our cleaning rod until our flag is back at the 12 o'clock position. All right, we're back up. Go ahead and finish pushing our patch through. And we'll measure between our two marks here. And that gave us a measurement of 11. So our barrel twists one time in 11 inches. So that makes it a 1 in 11 twist, 1 to 11 twist. And that's how you measure that. Next, we are going to be checking our headspace. So in order to do that, first thing we had to do was remove our extractor and ejector from our bolt to ensure that we are getting an accurate measurement. And we'll be using our go and no go gauges. We're going to start with the go gauge. We're going to go ahead and feed that into place. We're going to take our bolt and put it into the action. Let's go ahead and not mess up. Now, this should close on the go gauge. Bolt's closed, as you can see here, it's flush. So the chamber meets the minimum specifications. So now we are going to remove the go gauge. Now we are going to install our no-go gauge. And our bolt should not close on the no-go gauge. And it does not. You can see the gap right here. Let's see if I can go flash that one. You can see our gap right there. The bolt does not close, so that means that the chamber does not exceed the maximum specifications. So if our go gauge did not fit, then it means that the chamber is too tight or too short, so we could test a different bolt or replace the barrel or both. In an extreme circumstance, we could probably have the barrel reamed out to match the bolt, but I don't have a chamber reamer, so for me personally, I would contact the distributor of the barrel and the bolt and see if I can replace them. If the no-go gauge did fit, then you may still have the ability to exchange the bolt or the barrel or both, but you would need to get an exact measurement to see what the actual chamber is. You can use other chamber gauges that come in various sizes to verify that. Not necessarily makes the firearm unsafe, but I wouldn't send the rifle out. If it was just for me, I would shoot it and then just reload ammunition to that chamber size. But for a customer, you want to make sure that you get an inspect barrel and bolt and make sure that the chamber meets the headspace requirements. Next, we are going to be measuring our pin protrusion. For this, we are going to need a pin protrusion gauge, our dial calipers, our bolt, and our firing pin. I'm going to leave the extractor and ejector out just to make this a little bit simpler. So first thing we need to do is get an accurate measurement of our pin protrusion gauge. So we're going to make sure that our calipers are zeroed. And then we're going to measure our pin protrusion gauge, and I came up with 0.6295. So let's go ahead and write that down. Now we're going to insert our firing pin into our bolt, and we are going to set that on a hard surface. Let's get this out of the way. Now we're going to take our protrusion gauge and put it over top of our firing pin, and I have my lock nut loosened just a little bit. So now we're going to make sure that that's touching the firing pin. Tighten that up. Now we can measure our pin protrusion. And that gives us a measurement of 0.6760. So that'd be 676 thousandths. All right, so now we'll write that down. So that gives us a measurement of 0.465. And our measurement should be around 0.044. So we're a little bit over by about 2.5 thousandths of an inch.